Hey guys. So, this morning, just on my Facebook personal page, I had posted some pictures of the guys putting my baby boy building my porch. It was in 2013. The fire was in it was October 22nd of 2012, and so it took a while for me to clear the property where the house was, and then to find a house. And I don't think at the time when things, I really don't remember. Okay, so what I was going to say was a lady sent me a message a little while ago that asked about the fire. And I got to thinking, she said she didn't know if I'd ever talked about the fire, and she didn't want to ask anything personal. But I guess I'm doing videos and showing my life and Levi's life, and I don't know how much more not personal we could get. I mean, we're pretty out there with everything. I hope pretty much the whole family is. That night, it was a Saturday night. I say it was October 22nd, but it might have been the 24th. But it was a Saturday night. And earlier that day, the neighbors, right back off over here, and that house is gone now because it was ruined in the flood. But now you have to remember, this was a long time before. Oh, the mosquitoes there's those big ones too. The mosquitoes. The flood took that little house in 2017, but this was in 2012. And the ladies that lived in the little house on the other side of my son's house, and I know my shop is there, and you can see a little bit of, it's on the other side of the driveway of Mom and Dad's little tiny house. And the ladies that lived there had been doing yard work and burning leaves, and they had, music going in the afternoon. Not loud, not like we get across the street now with the loud Hispanic music. It's pretty rough sometimes. So just, you could barely hear it. They were nice ladies, but they had been doing yard work. So for the whole afternoon, you were smelling like leaves burning. And I think that's one reason why I didn't, I wasn't alarmed when I first smelt smoke. Now I have central air and heat in this house, but I also keep a window unit in my bedroom because I'm 53 and I get hot flashes at night. So, but the old house didn't have central air and heat. Everything was the wood heater for the main part of the house, the big wood heater. And then I had a couple of air conditioner units throughout the house. And so in my bedroom, I had an AC unit. And I know it was October, but Texas, it was hot. It was warm that night. And when I first woke up during the night and thought I smelt smoke, I thought it was smoke being like the smoke being pulled in, just the smell of the smoke being pulled in from my window unit, from them burning. And it didn't alarm me. I didn't think anything about it. And then, I don't know, I laid there for a while in bed. It woke me up, but not enough to, like I said, it didn't scare me. And I started flipping channels on the TV, and at some point I must have dozed back off. But, and then Levi came to my room. Now, my house was 2-story. The old house was 2 stories. And for years, Levi had a downstairs room, and then the 2 boys, Tony and Buddy, shared the upstairs. it was basically one big room, and the stairs went up, and so it went into one room, but then the whole length of, the whole length of the house was up, there was an upstairs. So it was split. My grandpa, Daddy's dad, had built some closets at one time up there, and so they were right sort of in the middle of the upstairs, and they came out on both sides, one over here and one over here. So it separated and made that 2 rooms. So even though somebody might have the room right when the stairs came up, people had to walk through their room to get to the other room. It was just one big open space except for those closets separating it. So anyway, that being said, the boys had moved out by then, and Levi for a little while had the upstairs. I had moved him up just to give him a bigger room. And but just a few months before that, I had moved him back down again, and it was just easier to clean and pick up the stuff that Levi gets out, and I didn't have to go up and down them stairs. So the stairs had basically become storage. I had my Christmas tree up there. I didn't even take my Christmas tree down. I just carried it up. It was a big tree. I turned it upside down so I didn't tear up any branches, and drag it up the stairs and sit it back up, and it just stayed sitting up with the light still on it. All I did was took the ornaments off, but it was just storage. And at the big end, at the far end, I had a twin size bed made up, ready if anybody ever needed to stay at the house. But I also had like a treadmill and just things like that up there, like a little workout room. And one second. Give me 1 minute. Oh my gosh, sorry. All these little wild kittens around here, and now I guess they're getting in the age where they're coming into heat. And wild, well, it's not a wild. That cat right there, I believe belongs to Buddy and Steph, and they never had him fixed. He's over here messing with them. Anyway, I stopped that. Not saying when I go in the house it ain't gonna start back up again, but I stopped it. Anyway, that night, at some point, Levi came to my room, and when he opened the door and came in, I was sort of like, I never slept. Even to this day, I don't sleep heavy because I think I'm always listening. Even in my subconscious or whatever. You know how when your babies are babies and mamas can always hear the babies, but daddies can sleep right through everything. But Levi never, I didn't get to get out of that stage because he's still the baby in the house. And so I still sleep that way. But I knew when he came in the room and he got in my bed. And I think after I laid there for a few minutes after he came in the room, I thought, maybe that they let that fire get out, because I thought like it was getting stronger. The smell was getting stronger. I'm thinking, what if they went to bed, they let it get out, and it's, crossed the driveway. I don't know how it would cross the driveway. It's a dirt driveway, but, it jumped or somehow, and it was coming across my field, because that was before Buddy and Steph's house was in that field. And so I laid there thinking about it, and finally it just got the best of me. And I went to, I was going to go out on the porch and go out on the front porch and look and see if everything looked okay over there. Maybe, it even caught their house on fire. I never thought that when I opened that door, what I was going to find. But, yeah. I opened my bedroom door and couldn't see anything except for, at some point, Levi must have been in the living room and had left the TV on. And through the smoke, and it was so black, it was a black smoke, I could see the blue haze. I don't think there was a picture anymore, but I think the screen was still there. And I don't know if the cable box had already melted or malfunctioned, or he'd hit a button that turned off, that turned off the cable box, but the TV was still on, so it was just a blue screen. But that's all you could see, was like a blue screen from the TV across the room. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see the table. I couldn't see the couch. I couldn't see the wood heater. And, you know, like I said, we weren't building, we didn't have a fire going that night in the house. It wasn't cold. And so I just shut the door, because then I knew that something was wrong in my house. So I shut my bedroom door, and I think I grabbed a couple of pillows, the throw pillows that I take off my bed at night. I threw them in front of the door to keep the smell from coming up in the bedroom. And I went into my office. Now, where my bedroom was, in the old house, where my bedroom was, there was a big front window that faced the road, and there was a side window that faced the side yard. And that side window we had taken out and added on, so I'd have my own private bathroom. But it was so big that I ended up having a whole lot. It was about a 8 by 6, and you think that's not very big, but there was this extra space when you first walked into my bathroom that was not usable. It was just extra space. And so I, at some point, had built a wall that divided it up a little bit. And you have to remember, these windows were big picture windows. They were about 6 foot wide, and they were floor to ceiling. So it was a big opening to start with, and it was just this big cased opening that went into this big bathroom that we built on. And it had the bathroom, the clawfoot tub, the toilet, the vanity, which is still the vanity that I have in my bathroom now, because it was an old dresser that I turned into a vanity. Because you have to remember, my house was built in 1842 or 46. Anyway, so I had been remodeling the house to look old again. And so I had to put the clawfoot tubs back in. So this, my bathroom, the addition, had the clawfoot tub, and had a walk-in closet, and then I had this space right when you went in that was just dead space. It was just open, but nothing was there. And it had a floor-to-ceiling window, but it was just a 3 foot by 5 foot window. And so I took this little section there, and I made this little office. And then the cased opening, I divided in two. I made a door for the office, and I made a door to go into my bathroom. And so I went into my office, because that was the window that I could get open and closed. I had the front window facing the road, but it had the AC in it. And if I had known at that time that, well, this is bad, and we got to, you know, then I think I probably would have just opened, if my room was on fire, I would have just opened that window right there and pushed the air conditioner out. But you have to remember, these were old windows, and not all the time did the weights inside the walls work. So it was just easier for me to go into my office and open that big window, kick the screen out, and then I went back to the bed. I told Levi to get up. And I said, come with Mom. I said, the house is full of smoke. We've got to get outside. The scariest of that entire night, was knowing that my house was pitch black, full of smoke. I couldn't, you know, when I looked out there and was gonna, you know, thinking I was just gonna go out on the porch and see what them neighbors were doing, seeing my house black like that, and the smoke, the smell was so strong. When I got him out of the bed, and I said, come with Mama to the, you know, I stepped out of, because it was, you know, like I said, almost floor to ceiling. So there was just a little bit of space between, you know, when I stepped out and touched the ground with my foot outside. And when I stepped out and turned back, he was not there in my office. He was behind me, and now he was gone. And it happened so fast. But at the same time, it felt like it was like a lot of time had passed. I don't know. But I had to crawl back in. And I'm screaming now for him. And when I got back in and stepped from the little office like I said, it was tiny, but when I stepped into the doorway and looked across the room, I could still see my TV was still on. My room wasn't full of smoke yet. You could smell it, but it wasn't full. But I could see my door was closed. I could see the pillows were still there, so I knew he had not gone out the door. And so I went around and into the bathroom, and he was in the bathroom. He was peeing. And I was like, leave. And I don't want to scare him, but I'm trying to get him out of the house. And anyway, he finally come out, and it was really hard because, you know, Levi's autistic, and I was trying to make him understand I needed to step out the window. And, you know, he kept trying to argue with me and say, go out the door. And I was like, you can't go out the door. And at some point, my fear was you open the door and the fire's going to blow you. I don't know. I was all these fears in my mind about fires and what might happen if I open my bedroom door again. And so I managed to get him out of that window. And since he takes medication at night to sleep, so he's groggy. And I said, come on, look, we're gonna camp out tonight in the camper. And I had the little RV out there. Now, the RV doesn't drive. It's not like I can take it places. I got it from my grandparents. Never made it road legal. We literally brought it here. It was a fifth wheel, set it up. I gutted it, and it sort of just turned into this little place that I thought would be perfect for when hurricanes and things come through, when those big storms and we lose power for 2 or 3 days or a week. Or at one time, like back in Alicia, we were out of power for over 2 weeks. All I could think of was that this was going to be the perfect place. I could plug a generator into it, light the whole place up. He'd have air, he'd have his TV. So that's the reason this camper was there, and it'd been there for a few years, sitting there. And we used to do that. When we first got it and I first fixed it up, it was sort of cool to have it. And I'd say, hey, let's have a camp out in the camper. And we'd get popcorn and tea, and we'd go to the camper, and we'd watch a movie and sleep. And, you know, we're across the driveway from our house. But it was like this fun little outing that I would do with him. So that's what I told him. I said, look, we're going to have a camp out in the camper. And so I got him to the camper. I turned the TV on, and I said, which didn't even think about at the time, but the cable that came across to the camper that gave cable out there was actually coming from the bedroom upstairs. It was Buddy's, and I just put a long cord on it and took it when he moved out, and took it, you know, to the camper. So at some point he was going to lose cable anyway if the house was on fire. But at the time, you're not thinking like that, because I didn't see, even outside trying to carry, you know, not carry him, but lead him to the camper. I was looking at the house, and I don't see fire. I just smell smoke. Even the yard was full of smoke. And I still, in my mind, I think I must have thought the neighbors had something going on, but I didn't know why. I knew something was not right. It was in my house, but I didn't see fire. Anyway, I got him in the camper, and then I realized that I'd left my cell phone in my bedroom. So I told him, I said, I'm going to run back to the house and get my phone, and don't come out of the camper. And see, that's how he didn't get it. You know, even though I said the house is full of smoke and we got to get out of the house and all these things, I told him, his mind never comprehended it. Because when I said I'm going back to get my phone, he told me to bring the tea when I come. Poor baby. Anyway, I went back across to the window, crawled back into the window of my office. My bedroom still, it smelled like smoke, but it's not any heavier than it, you know, ever was. I could see everything. TV was still on in my bedroom. Everything looked normal, except you could smell smoke. And I got my cell phone, and I peeked. I think that's when I realized that it was worse than what I thought, because I sort of cracked my bedroom door to look out, and I couldn't see the TV anymore. Either it had gone out or it had burned up or something, but I couldn't see the blue across the room anymore. I couldn't see anything. So I had folded clothes that night, and I had piles of clothes sitting on my dresser, clothes for his room and clothes I didn't put away yet. So I threw those all on my bed, in the middle of my blankets. And I drug that blanket like a hobo thing full of what clothes I had folded. I mean, I had clothes in my closet and all kinds of stuff, but you know, you're not thinking. And I drug it through the window and took it to the camper. And then I called. Well, while I was dragging it, I was calling Mom and Dad. And they weren't answering. I was calling Dad's cell phone. I was calling Mom's cell phone. I don't think none of us had landlines anymore. We all just had our cell phones. And I kept calling their cell phones. And they weren't answering. So I was just thinking Dad was going to come down and see something and do something. You know, I still didn't see or think that it was fixing to turn into I needed the fire department. But when I couldn't get them to answer, and I was calling them, and I'd put that blanket full of stuff in the camper. Levi was already asleep in the bed in the camper. And I come out of there, shut the door so he wouldn't come out. And I was calling Dad again. It's probably about my second time to call Dad. I called Dad, then Mom, and now I'm calling Dad again. And I was trying to walk around my house, have to go through a gate to get into the backyard. And I couldn't see. By then I knew something was up in my house, because there was no fires outside. But the place was full of smoke. Really thick, heavy smelling smoke. But it was still, you know, no flames anywhere. I couldn't see flames in any of the. Listen to that mess. Jesus help me. So anyway, Rohan, baby, you're the only good one. Listen to him. I don't know what to do. I tried catching them, and they wouldn't all go in. All my cats, like here's one right here looking over there scared to death. All my cats are spayed and neutered. It's these wild ones. Anyway, at some point, I went ahead and called 911. And I told the lady on the phone, I told her my address. I said, I'm walking all around my house. I said, I don't see flames, but it's full of smoke. I can't even see in the windows. It's so dark, full of smoke. And I think what took the longest was that because we were so rural out here, they kept calling Montgomery County, and they weren't getting it to, even though I was telling you we're in Liberty County, the way the county lines are, they kept getting Montgomery County. Finally, they got the fire department here in Plum Grove, and she asked me, did I have a vehicle? And I said, yes. And she said, she said something about standing out by the road. And I said, well, listen, I have an autistic son. I can't go stand out by the road. I have to be where he's at. And I said, I don't want him to come out of the camper. And she says, is it safe where the camper is? I said, yes, the camper was safe. It was, you know, away from the house. And I said, you know, I'm not seeing flames. I just see smoke. I said, I don't know what it could be. But anyway, she said, well, did I have a car? And I said, yes. And she said, could I put my hazards on, turn my headlights on, put my hazards on, so the police, the fire department, as they're coming through, could be looking for the headlights or the hazards blinking. I said, yes. So I did that. And at some point I could hear, I was still on the phone with her. I was still sort of walking around the house, and I said, I hear sirens. And she said, she'll stay on the line until they pull in. And I said, okay. And so I'm still on the phone with her. And I said, you know, I'm still telling her, I'm walking, I'm looking at all the windows. I don't see a fire. He pulls in the fire truck, but he's not dressed. He's, when he gets out, he drops in front of the truck, in front of the headlights of his truck. He drops those boots, you know, those suspender fire boot things. He drops them, he's putting them on. And he's putting them on, and right next to him, well, I mean, over in the yard at the house, and he's in the driveway, the kitchen window blows out. And then it looked like, oh my gosh, did that go away? I don't know if y'all can, there's something keeps popping up. It looked like flames were immediately everywhere in my house. It just, in every window, I could see red and orange. I could see the flames. And so from then on, at some point, the fire department lady continued to try to get Mom and Dad while we were on the phone. And at some point, she got a hold of Dad and Mom. And those cats. And then at some point, Buddy and Steph came from, they lived in Atascocita at that time. They had, they had Caden from Steph's first marriage, but they had Connor as a baby. And I kept both them during the day. Anyway, they showed up. Fire department, several fire departments came. I don't remember who all came. I can't remember now. And a whole lot after that is a blur. It's like I don't remember everything. I know they couldn't get it to stop. It kept popping back up when they thought they were through, and they were just sort of standing around in the yard and drinking water and just talking. Next thing you know, you'd see flames again somewhere. And because the house was so old and it had hollow cavities, because a lot of the house didn't have insulation because it was so old and there wasn't insulation back then, the fire was going up those cavities, you know, between the studs and stuff, and then they were opening back up somewhere. At some point, they called a neighbor down the street that had a backhoe, and he came, pulled up through my yard in this backhoe, drove the backhoe there, and started pulling my roof off. Because they kept saying it was mostly in the attic, at that point. And so he's pulling my roof off. And it was, like I said, it's hard to remember every little thing, but it was very, when you go through something like that, it's surprising how, I remember so much detail up until, but it was after, when it sets in, you don't have a home anymore. You're having to live at your mom and dad's until you can figure out what you're going to do. A whole lot of that. I don't remember. I mean, I guess if I had to sit down and say, okay, well, I bought the house on this day. This is the day I bought the house, and this is the day they brought the house in. And at some point, I'm sure I took pictures of when I moved in the house. So that would have to be my timeline, because I don't know how long I lived at Mom and Dad's upstairs. I can't remember. I remember when Daniel brought the big tractor and dug big holes. He dug 2 big holes in my yard. And I was on the porch at Mom's. I could hear the tractor down here, but then I could hear it crunching through the house. And I couldn't sit on Mama's front porch after that. I had to go in the house. I couldn't listen to it. Anyway, I don't know how long I lived at Mom and Dad's, and they're upstairs. I just know that at some point, I think I gave Dad like $1,500, and he went to McCoy's and got the material to build onto the camper, because I didn't know how long it would take us to build a house, and I assumed that we were going to, you know, just build me another house. And it was during that time of just building the front on the camper, the little RV. It's a 5th wheel, and it's 30 foot long and it's 8 foot wide. And so he built on a 30 foot long, 10 foot wide addition, divided into 3, a bedroom, a bathroom, and a living room in the center. But it was during that build that I have to remember, up until then, I'd done some little projects and helped do things and helped build porches and helped do, you know, all these little things I would help do, but I'd never built a house. So Dad was the builder, I mean. And it was during that time that we would work at the camper, and then the next day he couldn't work because his legs hurt so bad. So it'd be a couple of days where we could do anything else, you know, let his legs rest up. And it was at some point I told Mom that I wasn't going to be able to build a house, that there's no way Daddy could build a house anymore. He could be a foreman. He could be the foreman, but he couldn't build. So I was still trying to decide what, I mean, I was going to buy, at that point I knew I was going to buy a mobile home. I was going to buy something ready-made. And I happened to pass by every day on my bus down 2090 going out to the junior high and the high school. I would pass this mobile home place. It was used mobile homes. They only usually had 3 or 4 of them out there, and in the very back of their property you could see other mobile homes back there. And I think what he did was he would buy them from somebody cash, bring them in, fix up the problems that they had, you know, whatever it was, sort of remodeled to a degree, but basically just, you know, and then put them out front to sell. And the house that I seen, the house that I'm in now, it had a metal roof on it, a real metal roof, channel drain. They had put that roof on there, and it had real siding that I would go to McCoy's or Home Depot or whatever and buy. It wasn't vinyl siding or anything like that. And I was like, and it was short and stubby like a house. It wasn't some long 80-foot long. It's a double wide. It's 28-foot wide and 48-foot long. It looked like a house sitting there. And I come home and I said, Mom, would you call this number? I guess I was taking care of the babies or something. And I said, would you call this number real quick and ask them about the mobile home with the metal roof? And she got off the phone and she told me what they said they wanted for it. It was cash. They don't want finance. And I had it. I had that money. Well, insurance. I had insurance on the home. It didn't do a whole lot, but it did buy me that home, and it gave me a few $1,000s to furnish it once I got it, and, you know, to do some stuff. So I did some stuff in it, you know. I did some remodel stuff in it, and I you know, I was working and I had a job. And so that is the story of the fire. So I will tell you that the fire marshal came to the conclusion that it started in my kitchen. It was a you know how you can get the power strip? Okay, it's not a power strip. It was, I think they came along before power strips ever came along. They're like square, and they got 2 prongs on the 2 like outlets on the back, and you plug it into one, you know, you plug it into the outlet, and then it gives you 6 or 4, whatever's on the front of it. It makes 2. It makes your one outlet become 6. They're sort of like power strips, but they're just sort of, he said that was, it faulted out, and the fire did start in the kitchen with that outlet thing. So that's a warning not to buy those. If you want to use power strips that have the little reset and all that stuff, that's the best ones to get. Don't buy those. They still sell them. Maybe if you get ones that are made in the USA, that's better, because he said the ones like I had, just China made ones, they use any kind of wire over there. It doesn't have to be a specific, there's no kind of regulations, and mine shorted out. It was faulty, and it started in the kitchen. And now mosquitoes are biting me, and it's gotten a little chilly, and I haven't fed the goats yet, so I'm headed out to do that. But I wanted to address that because somebody asked about it, and I thought, well, I've never really given an in-depth about losing the house in the fire and what me and Levi went through that night and how scary it was to lose him. When I went out and turned around, he was gone. I thought it was, oh, it was scary. It was a scary night, and it was devastating to lose that old house. That was the house that Daddy grew up in. It was the house that his daddy grew up in, and it was the house that his daddy's mama grew up in. So there was his mama and then Papa, and then Daddy, then me, then Levi. You could almost say 5 generations had been living in that house before, on my watch, lost it to fire. So that was pretty heartbreaking too. Anyway, I love y'all. It's cold outside. I'm going in. I gotta go feed them. But God bless y'all and have a good night.